Good afternoon, everyone. May we stand for a moment of silence, then our pledge. Now our pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to call our meeting to order for May 7th, 2019. I'd like to begin with commissioner reports. Vice President Baker, would you start, please? Oops, my mistake. Pardon me. Thank you for the correction. Approval of the minutes for April 30th, 2019.
Motion to approve.
Second.
First and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Now, Commissioner Baker, any report?
I don't have, actually I do. We received an email this week. I believe somebody's assessments went up like 17.5%. And if I remember correctly, is there a cap as to how much the tax rate, not the tax rate, their tax bill can go up? Isn't there a limit, like 5% cap?
Yes, sir.
So maybe, not today, but maybe somehow or someday you could give us another overview of how that cap works. Just, just to fill everybody in and refresh some memories as to how that cap actually works.
Sure. And in fact, Michelle coordinated with Todd Hershey's office, and that person received a very thorough and detailed explanation
Okay, yeah.
of that. Yeah.
Commissioner Baker, I think Commissioner Wagner could add to that because you had a request a few weeks ago about discounts or applicable.
Yeah, I think well, it's not my turn yet. It's not my turn yet. Go ahead. I'll get. But you want me to go ahead and talk or?
Oh, sure. It's your turn.
Daggone, I didn't have anything to say, but now I do. I reckon. Yeah, I would like actually for the county, and I think I requested this, and I think Sarah might be working on it, to come up with all the programs that are available. Like Court was telling me this morning, he got a disabled veteran a discount because they didn't even know they were eligible for a discount on assessments. I sent a lady to the assessment office for, believe it or not, we get a lot of inquiries for homestead, make sure she was getting everything, her discount, especially seniors and veterans, make sure they're getting everything they can get. There's a lot of programs out there, and I think we should be prepared to, as like Terry just said, is to be able to have a list of those programs and be proactive and publish those programs so that we can help people with that.
Just for informational purposes, there is information available currently on the Treasurer's website for Washington County, and also I think Mr. Slocum has additional information in front of him that we are also preparing for the budget hearing. So
Right. Well, that's good because they won't look on the treasurer's website. So, but it's good for somebody that's just sort of scrolling around. But that's all I have, actually.
Commissioner Baker, would you like to continue with comments?
That was all
Thank you.
In addition, would we be able to have some of those applications for next week's meeting just available?
Yes, sir. So to answer both of your questions, there is a citizen's guide that will be at next week's meeting. I believe we have plan to have 300 copies of this available, and we can get those after the meeting as well if requests are made for more. And in that, there are 4 programs as well as the website that do lend to that. One is homeowners, one is for senior citizens, one is for renters, tax credit, and one is for veterans. So those are detailed pretty well here. And I believe any individual may qualify for multiple if they do, in fact. So one doesn't exclude someone from the other. I also have a note here, Commissioners, to invite Mr. Hershey in for an explanation of the ceiling from year to year.
Thank you. Commissioner Kiefer, would you have comments?
I'll save my comments for this evening.
Thank you. Commissioner Wagner.
I already made mine.
Commissioner Court.
I'm good, thank you.
Any comments I'd like to add is I did attend at the MVA, the motorcycle awareness event. Look twice, save a life. Bikers have families too was sort of the theme. So at this time of year and weather becoming better and better, you're going to see more motorcycles out on the road. So take that extra effort to look to make sure that you haven't been obstructed of a view of a person on a motorcycle. And then second, I attended the business breakfast with hospice along with County Administrator Rob Slocum. Hospice is a very important entity in our community. At your time of need, hospice is there to serve you. So, and that concludes my report.
And just to comment on Commissioner Klein's safety awareness at MVA, I'll share the pictures with you later. I have proof that he was there holding
Yeah,
babies.
I need that one. That young baby just had major heart surgery, and he's from Hancock. His name's Maverick. I think less than 2 weeks ago, and he's out recovering. It's a miracle.
I'll send those pictures.
Well, I'm glad. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you. Next, reports from county staff in the audience. Who's first?
Good afternoon, sir.
Good.
Susan Buchanan, Director, Office of Grant Management, just coming for your awareness of two recent awards made through the Office of Grant Management. One was grant awards. One was for hotel rental tax funds for the Antietam Velo Club's Tour of Washington County Kickoff Criterium and Stage Race. That will be June 14th through 16th. The award was an amount not to exceed $3,510 of Washington County Sheriff's Office overtime costs for the traffic control for that race. You may recall there was another award announced for the Velo Club several weeks ago. These are two different races. It's separate applications. Another application, a grant award that was awarded through the office was for the General Fund Contingency Program to Interfaith Service Coalition for $1,000, and that's for a new initiative they're doing called Reflective 911 Sign Initiative, and they will provide up to 100 signs for senior citizens to post to make their addresses more accessible and so that the first responders can find their addresses quicker. And that's what the awards were. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you. Any other staff in the audience? Sarah, please.
Thank you. I would just like to announce to everyone that we have had our rating agency meetings for the current year. We have received responses from all three agencies, and our ratings remain unchanged for the FY19 bond issue that we have. So I wanted to also let the commissioners know that along with those ratings, they do give suggestions on what counties can do to upgrade a rating or downgrade a rating. So some of the things that they noted, number one, to give us our AA+ ratings were that we had healthy financial flexibility, that we had strong management and fiscal policies, and that we had healthy reserve levels. To upgrade, they suggested improving the pension-funded ratio, which we've spoken about recently, tax base expansion and improve wealth, decrease in debt burden, and an increase in reserves. Conversely, the county could face a downgrade if there were use of operating reserves or the profile for debt or pension were to weaken. So overall, we had very good responses from the rating agencies, and we're proud to maintain the ratings that we have. Also playing into that is that we had our bond sale for 2019 today at 11 o'clock. So that was very exciting. The winning bidder was FTN Financial Capital Markets, and the true interest cost for that sale was 2.62%. So that is a great rate, and that is due to our AA+ rating. So I'd also like to thank my staff that's worked on this effort. Donna Anders, Danielle Kaufman, and Kelsey Mace. They start this process in February. They'll continue it. Even today, we're finalizing numbers, and we'll be moving forward to do our bond accounting. So their efforts are greatly appreciated, and so I just want to say thank you to them.
You said 2.62.
That's correct.
Yesterday, you were hoping it would be under 3%. That's well under 3.
That's right.
Good.
It was a good turnout.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. That's great news.
Now, AA+ that's pretty much about what we can expect forever, right? You can't really grow that, right? You can make it stronger?
Depends on if you raise
More
taxes or
assets
not.
and larger tax base to go higher.
The tax base, yes, would greatly help. In substantial increase in reserves, but yeah, AA plus is very good for the county, and at this point, what we feel to be at our peak right now.
What is the highest interest rate we're paying on our current bond?
I don't know that off the top of my head. Probably the highest interest rate across all of our previous bond issues that we've had. I
I
could
mean,
guess.
current, that's outstanding now.
Right, 3.5 maybe. I can check that for you. Yeah.
Also, I read somewhere where the state revenues are through the roof, maybe higher than ever. How will that impact Washington County? Does that mean we're going to get a nice windfall?
If the state is seeing an increase in revenue due to their income tax, the county will likely also see an increase in revenue due to income tax, yes. And that may impact us, Terry, in our reconciling distributions that we get in the summer, and then next year as well.
Mr. Slocum, any comments? You need to take up 20 minutes to keep us.
I do have a lot, I have a lot to say and a lot of accolades for staff, so I could probably take 20 minutes, yes.
30 if that's what you're aiming
Okay,
at.
thank you, sir.
Maybe 40.
So first of all, Susan Small and I were down at the Fort Detrick Alliance event, Innovate and Celebrate, last night for a lot of economic activity. And I think it's 33% of the Fort Detrick staff actually lives in Washington County. So back to one of the things about government shutdown, of course, Defense Department wasn't affected, but to consider what a government shutdown does, if 33% of the Fort Detrick staff is here, we know there's a lot of federal employment here in Washington County, or citizens who are employed by the federal government. It was a very nice event, and as is our theme of late, we are reaching out to make all types of connections and relationships, so out of that can blossom something that could create new jobs here in Washington County. So we'll continue to attend those events and make those connections.
Rob, let me, just a question. You had talked about 33% of the employees at Fort Detrick live in Washington County. So when you have a federal government shutdown, and then when the federal government opens back up, I know the federal workers get all of their back pay. Do the Fort Detrick workers get all of their back pay?
Well, I do believe that the Defense Department was not affected by that shutdown.
Okay.
Yes, but we are keeping tabs on others that are, and we are looking for, consistent with what you just said earlier, about when there is paid or distribution made, that may affect tax rates as well. Yeah. Income.
But if they get their full salary, I don't understand how it would affect.
It wouldn't for them have an effect, but there may be others that are affected by that are not Defense Department employees.
I got you.
So that's what we're keeping an eye on. Yeah. Of course, you all know Washington County Gives today, so shameless plug for that, and a thank you to the foundation that organizes that on behalf of the county. Just for the commissioners' informal approval, Mr. Weaver, representing Sharpsburg, has asked for the model for the sewer rates, and I do believe we are confirming, Kirk, if I could confirm with you, that we are confirming that that's applicable to the license agreement, if not known now, looking into it to be sure we can share that. And if so, unless the commissioners have any exception, we will share that with the town of Sharpsburg via Mr. Weaver.
That's correct. We've consulted with the firm to put that together. They have not at this point indicated that
Mr.
they
Weaver
have any
requested on
proprietary.
behalf of the town of Sharpsburg. That wasn't an individual request.
There was also a request from the town of Sharpsburg for the
Same thing.
same information, yes.
Okay. So that, more to come on that.
You want a consensus from the commissioners?
That would be fantastic.
A consensus for his request? I'm okay with it.
If it's
long as-
permissible by the licensing agreement.
As long as
He's
the
a-
licensing agreement.
He's,
And if the licensing agreement doesn't come back, he has the ability to come in and still use the software
We have,
inside here, and that wouldn't affect the license agreement if it's being
The
used.
software's from 1995. I don't think,
Oh,
but you're saying it's okay, is your legal opinion, to release it to him?
I do not believe under the Public Information Act there is a basis for disclosure of it at this point in time, to the best of my knowledge. Now, it was acquired in 1995 by the, what was at that time, the sanitary district. We've looked for procurement records that would give some insight into what was asked for and actually purchased at that time. We've been unable to locate them, given the age and as well as the subsequent passage of time and the different entities. County, of course, absorbed the sanitary district in 95 or.
Commissioners, consensus? I'm okay, that's 2.
Public's information.
That's 3, 4, Wayne, 5. Thank you for bringing it to our attention. Thank you, sir.
and just for the record, to answer your question, Commissioner Monel Schmidt, yes, there is a longstanding offer for Mr. Weaver or whomever in any of the municipalities, if they want to sit down with someone in Sarah's office to review what that is, be glad to do it. We will also be sending the presentation that was given last week that indicates what the numbers are and where they came from, as far as that may be helpful to the town as well. So,
For the record, Mr. Weaver and the town, there was 2 requests for the same information.
yes, and I do believe for consolidation of those requests, it'll go to Mr. Weaver, who represents the town.
Okay, thank you for that
Simplicity.
clarification.
Yeah.
All right, you have 10 more minutes for reports. What else you got?
Very good. I do have something that is probably worthy of 10 minutes to, in support of what Sarah said. I'm sorry, but the numbers overwhelm me, so I had to pause there. But I asked Sarah to run 3% versus 4%. Now, we didn't know the exact numbers at the time I asked her to run these numbers. So these numbers, I want to be very clear, are different than our actual numbers from year to year. But just 1 percentage point different, which is associated with the bond rating, can make an incredible difference. So, well, Commissioner Wagner, you asked if we could do any better. Well, it may be difficult to do better. I don't want to lose sight of how well we're doing, and I don't want to take for granted the bond ratings that we do have.
No, just to interrupt a minute, I didn't ask if we do better. I asked if it was possible for the county to have a higher score. I'm very pleased with it.
Yeah.
So,
We do put forward a great deal of diligence in trying to attain that, because it does save us an incredible amount of money through the sound financial planning of Sarah's office and even her predecessors. So just as an example, going from 3% to 4% over a 20-year period would be $1.5 million. That means $76,000 per year, or $6,366 per month in that percentage difference. That per month difference obviously is over a period of 20 years, gets you back up to a big number, which is 1.5 million. So whether it's a house, a car, or in this case we're talking about today, interest on a $12 million borrowing for the county, that 1 percentage point is an incredible amount of difference. So I'd like to thank the staff, approximately all 800 staff members who've worked to earn sound financial basis, the commissioners for their leadership on that sound financial basis, Sarah's office, who's worked quite diligently on keeping this scoring where we are in these ratings, because every day it saves a lot of dollars for Washington County to have this type of rating. It's very big, and I think each staff member, as well as the commissioners, we don't do enough pat yourselves on the back for that savings, because it does matter. It matters hugely in what we pay in interest. And that interest just goes away, just like your house or your car, it would. The last thing I have, stole a little bit of my thunder, is we do have this budget book, and it's a heck of a book that will be prepared and presented with the meeting next Tuesday, 6:00 p.m. I do want to take a moment to share that we've checked through public relations, and Ms. Weaver, our director, has confirmed that there is a website that's based in India that does say something about 5 o'clock for the budget hearing. That is completely inaccurate. We are trying to reach out to them to correct that. It is 6 o'clock p.m. Kepler Theater next Tuesday, May 14. I don't know if I have any more time.
Well, 3 more minutes if you could squeeze in. We can proceed with citizens' participation.
Yep.
We'll stall. If anyone would come in afterwards, because we start early, we would certainly go back to them. Citizens' participation. Anyone here today would like to make some comments to the commissioners? Seeing none, let's proceed to the next thing. There's a familiar name on our agenda for the next item. It's a presentation of a proclamation recognizing Julianne Albowitz. Would you please come forward? I'll meet you over by the microphone.
While you're walking over there, Miss Juliana Albowitz was also in Frederick County last night, and she's been at almost every meeting everywhere. So thank you for your support.
Well, we get the traditional hug. Thank you very much. Over the years, I've received many of those hugs, whether it was at a conference with one of our federal legislators or a local meeting in Washington County, a dinner promoting a nonprofit or an event. It's been a great honor to be in attendance with you by my side, and especially one of our favorite organizations, PIA, the Pittsburgh Institute of Aeronautics. And by the way, I believe you have perfect attendance to each one of those, or you missed one, or?
You can catch up real soon, Jeff.
I've missed 2. She was counting. But we often take a lot of pride, and I can see in her eyes that going out through Washington County and attending many of these events, your heart was into this county. And one reason why we want this proclamation to you today, to recognize your heart and love for Washington County. So thank you in advance for all the things you've done, and I'm sure you won't be finished helping Washington County. So thank you. On behalf of the county, Washington County Commissioners, I'd like to read this proclamation presented to Juliana Albowitz, a resolution of appreciation. Whereas we are here today to express our appreciation to Juliana Albowitz and to honor her for her distinguished years of service to Western Maryland. And whereas Juliana's public service started as a council member in the town of Clear Spring, and I see you have some fans here, and progressed to the office of Vice Mayor of Clear Spring, Maryland. Government at its best, closest to the people at the municipal level. Thank you, and I believe you're the longest serving mayor in Washington County?
Mr.
Yes, indeed. Forgive the interruption there on that.
No, that deserves credit.
Whereas she demonstrated her commitment to her community through running a successful family-owned retail business and side by side with her husband for 30 plus years. And whereas Juliana raised a family of 4 children with her late husband, Bill Albowitz, all the children have worked in public service roles across the United States. And whereas Juliana's career in public service progressed to the state level, where she served faithfully and professionally as the special assistant in Western Maryland to United States Senator Barbara McCoskey for 24 years. And whereas Juliana currently serves as Western Maryland Outreach Director to United States Senator Chris Van Hollen. And whereas she has been recognized on several occasions in her career for leadership and focus on women's rights. Now, therefore, we, the Board of County Commissioners of Washington County, Maryland, do hereby extend to Julianne Albowitz our sincerest appreciation for your dedicated service to the citizens of Western Maryland and Washington County. Congratulations on your well-earned retirement. Thank you very much.
And the mayor and Juanita.
And the mayor, bring him on up. Mark Albowitz back here somewhere.
Yes, you did. I have Nikki from our office, Jeff. Nikki Ryerson
Historic day. And then we'll get a picture of all of the commissioners as well, okay?
Okay, everybody. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Sorry, sisters.
All right, may we get a picture with the commissioners, everybody? Get into the center. Go ahead.
Can I just say something? I would like to say how great it's been working with all of Washington County because you people make my job very easy, as did the mayor and Juanita in Clear Spring. So it's always been a good public life. So I'm wishing all of you the best, and I live here. So I will either support you or I'll be in to let you know what I think. And in closing, I would just like to say, goodbye tension, hello pension.
Something that you're gonna get pictures with the commissioners. Mayor, come on down. Juliana, you get in the middle.
Sorry, it was so short-lived.
Juliana, you're right in the center. Come on, Mark, everybody, come on over. We got room, we have wide angle there.
Okay, Wayne. Terry, my Clear Spring buddy.
She was my mentor in my first year in the public office. We served together in Clear Spring.
Mark, get in here next to your mom. Get it. Who else? And,
Okay.
all right. Katie, you
Sir,
need
can I
us
have
to
you
do
go
that?
over there? Thank you.
Get in here.
Looks good. Commissioner Baker, can you scoot just a little bit? Thank you. Okay. And you too.
Wait.
One more? Come on in. That's great. Okay, everyone. 1, 2, 3. Great. Thank you.
All these chairs.
Thanks. I can't see with the glare. All right, we want to, commissioners, okay, I'm going to just readdress the audience. Is there anyone here for citizens participation? All right, seeing none, we'll go to the next agenda item. Presentation of proclamation recognizing May 2019 as Teen Pregnancy Prevention Month. Do we have any here? Hey, there they are. Will please meet Commissioner Wagner at the podium, folks.
You got some more people with you? I think we'll hear in this proclamation how important
You never
this
know.
is, raising 3 daughters and 7 grandchildren. This is directed at male and female, correct? Correct. I would think that. I would agree 100%. A proclamation recommending Washington County Teen Pregnancy Prevention Month, May 2019. Whereas Washington County's teen birth rate has continued declining over the past 22 years. In 2017, Washington County had 114 births to teens between age 15 and 19 years old, giving Washington County the 3rd highest teen birth rate in Maryland. And whereas teen pregnancy can be caused by and contribute to many social and economic issues, including a lack of extended sexual education programs, stigma around assessing contraception and talking about sex, greater unemployment rates, poverty, overall child well-being, and many risky behaviors, including the use of controlled substance. And whereas many teens lack courage to ask their parents about sex, but instead turn to unreliable sources which provide wrongful ideas on intimacy, leading to nearly 1/3 of teen mothers leaving high school, limiting job opportunities, and continuing the cycle of poverty. And whereas in 2017, Washington County reported 771 sexual transmitted infections. This is a minor increase from the prior year. And whereas from 1991 to 2015, Maryland's teen birth rate declined 74%, saving $72 million by 2015. These rates are continuing to fall in all racial and ethnic groups. In some cases, the gap in teen birth rates by race and ethnicity has narrowed. However, disparities remain, and whereas a group of community partners throughout Washington County advocating for teen pregnancy prevention will continue working to ensure educational programs, services, and resources are available to our youth, encouraging them to continue making informed decisions. And whereas nationally, May is recognized as Teen Pregnancy Prevention Month to increase renewed awareness of the consequences of teen pregnancy on children, families, and community. Now therefore, we, the Board of County Commissioners of Washington County, Maryland, do hereby celebrate Washington County Teen Pregnancy Prevention Month and sincerely thank you for your dedication to service in this community, awarded this day, 7th day of May, 2019, by the Board of County Commissioners of Washington County, Maryland. Thank you.
Okay, here we go. 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Oh. I wonder why that thing was so low.
I want to copy that video. All right, thank you all for participating in that proclamation. Next, we have on our agenda the Senior Center Operating Fund Grant. Please come forward, introduce yourself. Thank you. Thank you for being a little early because we're ahead of schedule. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Allison Hartshorn, Office of Grant Management, and joining me is Amy Olak, Executive Director, Washington County Commission on Aging. Today we are seeking approval to submit the application for the Senior Citizens Activity Center Operating Fund Grant to the Maryland Department of Aging in the amount of $36,308.76 and accept the award funding. The Washington County Office of Grant Management is seeking approval on behalf of the Washington County Commission on Aging to request funding in the amount of $11,202.26, which will be utilized to offset the salary of the assistant manager for the Senior Activity Center. This position currently already exists in Washington County Commission of Aging and has been approved in previous fiscal years. In addition, the Washington County Commission on Aging is seeking $25,106.50 of competitive grant funding to create a new and innovative senior activity center program focused on preventative health and fitness for seniors, which will focus on increasing exercise and addressing chronic disease prevention and self-management. The funds will be used to purchase 2 pieces of equipment, exercise equipment, furniture, staffing costs, and miscellaneous supplies for the program. Long-term sustainability of the program could involve charging a nominal fee to offset the cost of utilities and instructor fees once the grant performance period is complete. The Maryland Department of Aging requires applications to only be submitted by local governments. Therefore, the county will be the grant applicant and will enter in a sub-recipient agreement with the Washington County Commission on Aging to implement the grant funding project. Any grant award funds will be received and distributed through the county's Budget and Finance Office, and the Office of Grant Management will ensure all required fiscal and programmatic reports will be submitted in an accurate and timely manner. The grant performance period is July 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2020, and matching funds are not required for the Commission of Aging. And the fiscal impact, recurring expenses will be the sole responsibility of the Washington County Commission on Aging. Any questions?
Good. Just to clarify in my mind, it totals around 36,000 rounded off. 25 of that's for one thing, 11,000 is for another. Correct? And
Correct.
I guess the only question I have, how was the assistant funded in the past? If that's a reoccurring position?
It's a reoccurring grant that we get.
I mean,
from
was
the
that
state.
position being created or did it
No,
exist?
it existed. And
How did
last
you-
year, we used the same grant to fund the additional cost. It's 2 separate grants. One is for operating costs that comes from the state every year, and the other is a competitive grant.
So how many years have you gotten this same grant?
As long as I've been here, I mean, way before my time.
And the county's never matched those funds?
No.
Just a quick clarification. The 11,202, that's the recurring grant that you're talking about. The additional, the 25,000, you're talking 2 new pieces of exercise equipment, furniture, and then you have staffing costs.
Yeah, so it's a consultant position, so there wouldn't be any. health
No
insurance.
reoccurring expenses.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Commissioners? Comments?
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a couple questions first. You want me to go for a second?
No, you go ahead. Pull the motion.
Motion?
Motion pulled.
Okay, thank you. Assure me this is not a reoccurring expense, because some of the disagreement we've had with the $800,000 that you're receiving in our line item, assure me that this isn't going to come back as a budget increase. Not that I don't think the program's worthy, but when we have a heightened sense now of cutting police cars, plow trucks, I want to make sure that this isn't going to be a reoccurring expense. It's not grant funded that elevates your budget item. Then we're back here asking, and respectfully said, that we're back here asking for an increase in your budget for a baseline project. Because I know you received a grant from the foundation for a senior pantry. So I just want to make sure we're not putting you in a position where you might fail on a program if we grant this, that this is reoccurring and there's no budget for it.
Sure, so it's 2 separate grants. The first is an operating grant through the Maryland Department of Aging, and that
This is the
covers
one that's been repeating.
It absolutely. It's written into law. It's the Senior Operating Funds Grant. And the second grant is competitive grant, and the competitive grant process is typically a one and done. It's mostly used for capital expenses, not to be used for operating. That's why the consultant fees are a consultant board and not an actual employee a part of that. So if we would decide that the members feel it's, and that would be the standing committee of the senior center, if they feel that this particular program is worthy and they want it to continue it, the sustainability would be to charge just like we do our other programs, which is $5 a class.
I'm okay with it. If it's If you assure me that's it, I'm okay with it. I was just making sure we
Just like
weren't
last
putting you in
year,
a
we did
position
get the
with,
competitive grant last year.
Okay.
So, and that was for the cycling class that bought the exercise bikes.
Commissioners, any more comments, discussion before I call for a motion?
I fully support this, and I'll make a motion to approve both grant requests.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second. I have a first and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Unanimous, 5-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Airport we have right here. Okay. Next up, we're a little early, but Mr. Curry, I think we have you up for the bid award repair airport lighting. Okay. Mr. Curry, good day to you.
Good afternoon.
Who's that gentleman there with you?
It's Mr. Mason there.
Afternoon.
Before you is contract award PUR 1393, Kettle Transfer Station retaining wall. The recommended motion is to award the contract for the Kettle Transfer Station retaining wall to responsive bidder, Outdoor Contractor Incorporated of Hancock, Maryland, who submitted the lowest bid sum in amount of $198,000, $877.36 for items listed within the bid document. As you can see in the brief report, there's a list of items that will be covered in the project. The project is scheduled to be completed within 90 days. It does have liquidated damages amount of $500. I'd like to make a clarification for the record. There is a reference of $5,000, but the liquidated damages are $500. The bid was advertised as we normally do on the various websites, the local media. You can also see the number of people who download the bids, number of bids we received. There is funding for the project in the department's CIP budget. We have concurrence, and you also have the bid matrix that shows the other bidders' pricing. Are there any questions?
Commissioners, any questions?
I motion we move forward with that bid.
I have a motion to accept the bid from Outdoor Contractors. Is there a second?
I have a quick question, if that's all right.
Let's get it. I'll second and then some.
Okay, so he seconds the motion. We now have discussion.
I'm just looking at these two bids, and just for my clarification, one has a concrete retaining wall at $92,000, the other guy's at $59,000, but then the concrete slab is $39,000 with others $18,000. Are they looking at doing some different type of work to complete the same project?
No, a lot of times with bids, they'll load one item and take it off another if they think, sometimes it's just a matter of.
Specifications made for that particular
Yeah, I
item
mean,
of that
it's
project.
everybody bid on the same thing, but someone might feel there's more work involved with one item than.
But they're not
originally thought.
redesigning the
Okay,
project.
so they're both meeting, because just by looking at the discrepancy, I want to make sure they're both meeting all the needs and, that it wasn't anything different.
Yeah, I mean, I went through the bids and a few things stood out to you, but if you go through these things all the time, you always see one bid is going to be higher on one line item where it might be lower on somebody else. They just play with the numbers,
That's fine. And you're confident with outdoor contractors?
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah.
Any more discussion? Have a first and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is now the repair of one of the airport firefighting vehicles. Mr. Curry,
Afternoon.
Mr. Plessinger, good afternoon.
With me is Mr. Plessinger, Director, Airport. The subject before you is bid award PUR 1416, repair of one airport firefighting vehicle. Recommended motion is to award the bid to repair the firefighting equipment for the airport to responsible bidder, Emergency Vehicle Specialist Incorporated of Hagerstown, Maryland, who submitted a low total sum bid of $59,371. The bid was advertised as we normally do in the various websites, local media. Also lists the number of people that download the bid. Basically, what the vendor will be doing is taking the taking the airport vehicle apart and rehabbing and getting it ready to be put back in service so they can use it on the airfield. They have the funds in the department's budget. You have a recommendation of alternates, which you can if you do not choose to award the bid. And you also have the bid matrix that shows the other bidders' pricing.
And you might want to, you might want to just explain the difference, the huge discrepancy in the bids. So you might want to tell the commissioners why you think that is.
Yeah, so from my opinion, the major discrepancies in the bids, because the other bid is almost double the lowest bid, is the one bid is from New Jersey, which is the higher bid, and incorporated into those costs are they would come down to Hagerstown and service the vehicle. You know, that would have to include travel costs from their employees, moving their tools down, and lodging, and all of the expenses that would come with moving that. Right, yep, meals and everything, all the travel expenses.
Plus bringing that equipment down here is going to require heavy equipment to get it down here.
Right.
What's the value of the vehicle itself?
New value of the crash truck is right around $1 million.
This is being paid, this was from the fire, correct?
That's correct.
And this has been insurance money you're using to repair it, correct?
Yep.
Okay.
Commissioners, any more discussion? If not, entertain a motion to approve.
A motion to approve the,
First, do I need a second?
Second.
First and a second, any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Unanimous, thank you very much. A little ahead of schedule, but is there, Susan Buchanan, would you like to come forward? Reimbursement of design costs for the Maryland Theater expansion.
Good afternoon again. As stated, Susan Buchanan, Director, Office of Grant Management, here for a discussion regarding the reimbursement of design costs associated with the Maryland Theater expansion and direction on where those funds will be allocated. The Maryland Department of General Services has determined, that $345,255 of design expenses paid for by the county for the Maryland Theater's expansion project are reimbursable through the governor's bond bill. The refund of those funds may either be used as a reimbursement to the county or directed towards the Maryland Theater as an additional local support for the expansion project. To date, the county has provided the following funding in support of the project. The design costs that we are discussing as far as a reimbursement were paid for $500,000. That was a cost share with the city of Hagerstown. Construction administration, $227,000. Cash contribution that was approved on December 11th, 2018 of $1 million, bringing total support to $1,727,000. If we would have approval today to direct the refund that would be received by asking for reimbursement for those costs that have already been paid for through the bond bill, that would be added on for total support of $2,072,225,000. Are there any questions or discussion?
The source of the refund is from what?
It would be for the governor's bond bill.
From the bond bill?
Yes.
Not our general tax dollars?
No, it's from the bond bill that was, we've paid for those expenses already, so it'd be reimbursement coming in that would pay us back for the expenses already paid for through the bond bill. As a grantee, we are eligible to seek reimbursement for those costs, and the reason why they're available is because the Board of Education has indicated that they will most likely not have enough eligible expenses to use their full allocation of the bond bill. So we're trying to make sure that we maximize those funds, don't leave any on the table at the state, and use them at the different components of the project.
and it's just for me, you got one page, and I know we're sort of delaying the second request, and I know we're not going to go there yet, but that's going to add more to total support, correct?
Correct. The next agenda item, we kind of continue on with this
So this
subject.
$345,000,
I think that's the amount.
is money that we forward funded. The state's providing the funding back to us that we've already forward funded. And now the request is for us to not take that money back to the county and just move it to the theater.
We've already paid. Oh, go ahead.
Initially, the county agreed to pay 50% of the A&E costs, which is what this was for, up to $500,000 as a cost-sharing program with the city of Hagerstown. After information came to us from the Board of Education suggesting that they could not absorb the entire bond bill from the governor with their own costs, it was suggested that we could request for reimbursement for the funds of this $345,000 that we've already spent. So there's two options. One, the funds can be requested to be reimbursed and come back to the county, or the funds can be requested for reimbursement and diverted to the Maryland Theater as additional support. Does that help?
So we've paid that? I mean, that come out of.
We've already
paid that.
What fund did that come out of? General fund?
And this 345, when I guess when they originally approved the 500,000, wasn't expected to come back?
That's correct.
Okay.
Mm-mm.
I think you're thinking two different funding. There's a $5 million loan to the theater up to, or grant funding that is totally anticipated to come back. This is the 500,000 that was agreed upon a few years ago. This is the early number.
Okay.
Yep.
So of the 500,000, this is 345. The city gets the other.
No. This would just all come back to either the county to reimburse ourselves or share with the Maryland Theater. This is only the portion that we have paid. And the reason it's not the full 500.
City.
The city has a different situation because even though they also paid the $350,000 roughly, theirs was attached to bond bills and other grants, so they won't be requesting reimbursement on their side.
The reason it's not the full 500,000 is there's only so many costs that were eligible for reimbursement. The contract was provided to DJS and they reviewed it and said X amount of dollars that we had spent already were eligible.
Commissioners, any more questions? Is there a motion to support?
I make the motion to approve.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
I have first and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
5-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Susan, please continue.
I'd like
Thank
to
you.
invite
Please
Jessica
do.
and Benito to come join me.
Please introduce yourself as well, even though we know you. Thank you.
Benito of Atlanta.
Jessica Green with the Maryland Theater. Susan Buchanan again. You're still Susan.
Good
I'm still
afternoon,
here.
everyone. Thank you for being here.
Good.
Thank you for
We're here today because based upon the application that was submitted by the Maryland Theater requesting a financial contribution of $455,000 from the Hotel Rental Tax Fund spread over 4 years to assist the organization's expenses as part of the Urban Improvement Project. As stated in the theater's application, the expansion project is a key component of the Hagerstown Urban Improvement Project. The expansion will serve as a catalyst for the city's economic development, enhancing the long-term development of the downtown business district by creating a strong community environment which will encourage local business development. The project is expected to foster job creation, increase the tax base, and result in increased foot traffic in the arts and entertainment district, and is expected to generate over $5 million in economic expenditures in the form of dining, retail, entertainment, and overnight stays. The projected cost of the expansion is $15,268,737, which includes design costs and furnishings and fixtures. Funding sources for the project are anticipated to be nearly equally split between private donations, local and state government funding, along with a federal grant for a portion of the equipment costs. In addition to the $5 million forward funding agreement related to the governor's bond bill, the current funding commitments from Washington County are as follows, and I will go to scenario number 2 based upon the vote we just had regarding the design costs. We had The total support prior to that vote of $1,727,000, which included the design costs, construction administration, and the cash contribution, adding on the reimbursement of the design fees of the $345,225, that would be a total funding support to date of $2,072,225. As previously stated, the request is for $455,000 from the hotel rental tax fund, and the funding request will be structured in 4 annual installments of $113,750. The grant funding will be financed by 2 local banks who provided low-interest financing for the project, pledges committed over multiple years. If the request for hotel rental tax funding is approved as requested today, the total funding commitment from the county would be, you could go down to your chart that I've included there. It would be scenario number 2. It would be $2,527,225. It's important to discuss that we're currently, based upon what we discussed previously in the item, the staff is in discussions with Washington County Public School because they have indicated they won't be able to utilize their entire portion of the bond bill because of eligible expenses not being, what they're going to have left after their IAC funding would not be sufficient to use all their allocation. So what we're doing is we're working on looking at the subrecipient agreement to allow us to have flexibility so that any of those funds that may be left over, we can direct it towards other portions of the project with some flexibility to make sure that all those funds are maximized.
When will we know for certain on that, Susan?
The likelihood would be it will be at the end of the construction projects. So that's why we just have to kind of wait and see. There could be potentially more money from the bond bill that could be directed to the Maryland Theater. They can only absorb a certain amount because of the prevailing wage requirement, so they can't go over 50% state funding. So we're going to have to look at where their project is with change orders and what the Board of Education needs. So that's why we're drafting the subrecipient agreement to give us that flexibility. So as the project unfolds, we can look at different areas, and then that also would include the plaza potentially.
I had a couple questions real quick. On that beam raising, we had where we were at, and where are we at right now on the funding?
Well, before I walked in here this morning, we were at 96%. So
And what's that mean in dollars and cents? So what do we need?
What's the shortfall?
Yeah,
we
that's the word
were
I'm looking for. the shortfall.
before I walked in this morning at about $1.7 million short.
And
And
then
now we've just received another $355,000.
and
so-
that 455 would come off of that too.
Correct.
And correct me if I'm wrong. In the past, before all this started, Maryland Theater operates in the black, right, for the year.
We do.
So you support yourself. Is that a correct statement, Sarah?
Yes.
Yeah. Sometimes you operate in black, but there's money moved around, and so.
For the past couple of years, the way operations have been running, we've been able to manage our expenses. We've cut expenses over many years, realigned our business arrangements, how we run the theater, and the theater's been in black several years now.
Well, and to be honest, with the 17,000 square foot historic landmark, we have to be ready for anything. So building up cash flow is always important for a rainy day.
Sarah, what is the balance in hotel?
Hotel rental fund balance, about $995,000. Hotel rental tax fund, $995, yep, $995,000.
How's the monthly, fundraising going right now?
It continues to grow. We're continuing to have private conversations with larger donors, although it's coming to that kind of second phase of our public campaign is coming to somewhat of a close because we do need to order all of the donor recognition signage this month, actually next week, in order for it to be received and installed by the grand opening in October. So we've just launched last month a kind of third and final phase of capital campaign fundraising, which is the engraved bricks in front of the new expansion building and the sidewalk. So
$1,000.
correct.
Just in case anybody wants to buy one.
Get your name on a brick.
We believe that gives us a chance to reach out to a broader audience of individuals that want to participate in this downtown project.
When you say the balance in the rental tax fund, that's our current balance.
Correct.
So every year, what's our,
Approximately $600,000 to $700,000 each year is added or accumulated in that fund.
You know of any other EDC projects in the works? We also use that fund for conditional loan guarantees.
We do, so that's something to be very aware of. Certainly a good point. I'm not aware of any currently, but that doesn't mean that they're not out there. Normally, I don't engage with that.
I guess I have another question. If we get reimbursed over for some of this other things that you're talking from the state, that, you know, that do you have any clue of what that number could be? I mean, are we looking at the max $1 million, max $2 million, or is it max 200,000?
Are you discussing the bond bill?
Yes, from the Board of Ed, you were talking about that.
They're looking at the potentially, they could have up to $1 million, but that they may not be able to
And
utilize.
let me clarify, that won't actually come to the county. That would just be redirected to other portions of the UIP project, which could include Maryland Theater or the Plaza.
Right.
Right. So it wouldn't be a reimbursement to the county.
No.
Got it. But, and you're
For the project.
approximately 1.3, 1.4 million short after today.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
And does that include the plaza?
No.
The plaza's a completely separate project budget.
Okay,
everything.
that's what I was making sure, but when
Right.
we're talking about money redirecting towards the plaza, that's not redirecting towards this, okay.
Correct.
The way the bond bill's written is it talks about the UIP project in its entirety. So that gives flexibility. There's the Board of Education component, the Maryland Theater component, and the Plaza component as well. So when we talk about the bond bill, there is the flexibility to move the funds around in between those components.
Following up on Commissioner Kiefer's statement, Sarah, have you ever seen that we ever got into a low situation for balance in the hotel and the rental? Have you ever seen that?
I can tell you, as of 2 years ago, we were in the negative.
There was a low balance. You know, we do know that that fund will be built up every year by about the 600,000 or 700,000. So that's the good thing. It's a more we can rely on it.
When does that money come in usually?
Monthly.
That's the question.
Yeah, it comes in monthly, so we could get some more next month of.
Oh,
so
yeah.
it's paid monthly, so you anticipate an average is, let's say, 600,000 a year.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. So you can break that down however you like. We do have, you know, the 995,000 right now. Like Commissioner Kiefer said, I do think it's important to realize that that is where some of our conditional loans come from, because obviously economic development is very important here for our county. But yeah.
Commissioners, I hear there's a request for 4 years.
You know, I might just throw it out there. I don't know what, I'm all for some money. I'm not sure I'm all for the 455, but I'd like to hear everybody else's thought on it.
Well, the request is to do this year by year for the next, was it 4 years or 5?
4 years.
4 years. I support the Maryland Theater. I think this entire commission has. We're at the 2 million mark right now. Would we be okay with going ahead and giving this year's allotment of that 455 and see where we stand next year with your fundraising efforts?
If I could just share a bit more information so you maybe understand where we came up with the 455. After we visited with you earlier this year and perhaps before Christmas, our request was for $2 million in construction support. You had previously committed up to $500 for the design. At that point, we didn't know if the project would actually go to construction. And so once it had, we came back and asked for $2 million. You were able to approve the $1 million right away in January, and we received that check almost immediately. And you asked your staff and finance team to consider different funding streams with us for the second $1 million. So they've been working with us for the past several months to determine different options for this second $1 million. 200,000 of it is determined to be coming through DHCD through the city to the Maryland Theater. 345 is the potential reimbursement because of the Board of Ed not requiring as much funding from the state. So again, coming from the state, and that left us with this remaining amount of $455,000 to make that second $2 million complete. So I don't know if that helps, but
Yeah.
I just wanted to provide that.
I think where
additional-
we were in December when we talked about that, and my counterparts here can correct me if I'm wrong, we did, obviously agree to the 1 million.
Yes.
I thought we also had discussions, I think Commissioner Meinelschmidt had talked about pegging our future contributions to, as your funding comes in, to kind of match it dollar per dollar, something like that. So I think that's, when I was part of that conversation, that's where we left off.
Like any project though, and I'm going to be devil's advocate here a little bit, like any project, toward the end of the project, it's like squeezing what's left of a lemon. It's just the money, you've tapped every big resource you can, and it sure doesn't come in the way it does at the beginning of the project. So I'm not sure I could base it on that at this point, since we have a grand opening in October. The money's going to be probably, I'd bet it's 70% less than what it was when it started, maybe more. I don't know, just a guess. So.
Quick question. You said that this is going to be a low-interest loan that we're going to be paying off for you. What is I guess you said you had local banks that are funding you the money and that this will be paying it off. Am I correct by that statement?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you drawn on those lines of credit?
No, we don't anticipate to need to draw until the end of the summer. And we were approved for $3 million in low-interest financing. We anticipate we'll only need about 1.5, 1.6 at this time because the private donations have come in faster than we anticipated.
And so I guess I'm thinking of a different way of doing this, but what is the interest rate, your approximate interest rate?
I believe it's 2.95%. And each little bit more that we get will enable us to take less from the financing.
Exactly. So I guess I have a quick question. Is it possible to save them the interest on this that we, and I have no clue if this is possible, that we could give them the 455 out of our general fund and then have our hotel motel tax, if possible, pay back the general fund over the 4 years, so we're saving them the interest that they would be paying, so they're actually getting a net of slightly more.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Do you anticipate coming back in for any more requests?
No, currently the project is under budget. Our change orders do continue to come, but they're staying within our expectation. So at this point, we expect to be under budget for the entire project.
Yeah, for me, with the monthly commitment to our motel hotel tax, and this is going to be possibly your last request, I'd like to make the motion that we move forward with the recommended motion as presented.
I have a motion on the floor.
I'd second that motion.
I have a first and a second for, as presented, with 4 years at approximately 113 out of our hotel motel fund. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
I'd also really like to thank Susan and Sarah because, as many of you may not know, but they know what a spider web the funding is for this project and for the UIP. So we really appreciate your help. Thank you, commissioners.
You're still Susan.
All right. We are way ahead of schedule. I think we're at one.
Can we take a 5-minute recess?
Pardon me? Wayne, what was your vote for that?
I was a yes.
Yes, 5-0 unanimous. Thank you for that clarity. Let's take a 5-minute recess, and we'll be right back.
Yeah. That was the thing. I was trying to get them the money up front and save it.
2020 Appalachian Regional Commission Preliminary Project Description, Review, and Ranking. Susan Buchanan, welcome back.
Long time since I've been here last. I'm here, as stated, for the ranking for ARC FY20 preliminary project descriptions as part of the annual ARC funding program. Tri-County Council for Western Maryland, the local administrator of these federal funds, requested the county review and prioritize projects submitted for grant funding consideration. A review committee consisting of the county administrator, directors from the Office of Planning and Zoning, Business Development, Grant Management, and Engineering have reviewed the projects and assigned a preliminary ranking. The Board of County Commissioners has the final authority to review and rank the proposals at its sole discretion prior to submittal to Tri-County Council for their further review. ARC's preliminary project description packages were distributed in February to municipalities, educational institutions, agencies, healthcare providers, and nonprofit agencies throughout the Washington County area. The two categories of funding available through ARC are area development projects, which require a 50-50 match, and local access roads, which requires no match. This year's ARC funding for Allegheny, Garrett, and Washington counties is expected to be approximately $1.5 million for the area development projects and $2.5 million for local access roads. Funding requests for Washington County's area development projects include 10 proposals requesting $2,842,000 in ARC funding and 6 projects for the local access roads requesting $4,850,000. Total requested ARC funding for the 16 projects is $7,692,000. If awarded by ARC, the local access road projects submitted by the Washington County will reduce the cost of the county to complete these projects by the award amount. Non-county projects will have no fiscal impact. I do have the list of the preliminary ranking as compiled by the review committee that I can go over. And just as noted, there are 2 distinct pots of money. The top graph is the area development projects, which can run anywhere from infrastructure upgrades to educational programs, recreational, cultural programs. So there's quite a diversity of types of programs that would fund. The bottom 6 projects are just the local access road proposals that have been submitted. The number 1 ranked project by the committee was submitted by Hagerstown Community College for their program entitled Workplace-Based Assessments to Meet Employer Needs. Their request was $57,000 for that program. Number 2 was submitted by the town of Boonesboro for Inflow and Infiltration Upgrade Phase 2 for $150,000. Number 3 and 4 were both submitted by the city of Hagerstown. The number 3 ranked project is the wastewater collection system rehab for $200,000. And then the second one is the Life Safety Code Upgrades Fund for $250,000. The next proposal, number 5 ranked, is from the town of Hancock for sewer rehabilitation, asking $150,000. Number 6 from the Washington County Public Schools, Environmental Literacy Enhancement and Expansion, requesting $150,000 from ARC. Number 7, submitted by the town of Boonesboro, Sludge Dewatering Facility, the Loot Press, I hope I said that right, I apologize if I didn't, and requesting $375,000. Number 8, City of Hagerstown submitted for the 3rd parking deck, requesting $1 million. Number 9, submitted by the ARC of Washington County for a fitness center, requesting $10,000. And number 10, from the Housing Authority of Washington County for funding for Blue Mountain Estate Senior Community in the amount of $500,000. And then at the local access road category, the first ranked project is from Washington County for Wright Road Extension Phase 1, requesting $1 million. Second ranked from the city of Hagerstown, Professional Court Widening Eastern Boulevard Improvements for $750,000. This is Phase 2. The third project, town of Boonesboro Connector, connecting Maryland 68 to Maryland 34, requesting $1 million. Fourth, Washington County's Eastern Boulevard Extension Phase 1, requesting $1 million. Fifth, Washington County Wright Road Extension Phase 2, requesting $1 million. And sixth, town of Smithsburg's East School Lane Access Road, requesting $100,000. As stated, These have been already reviewed and ranked by the review committee, and I just give an idea of what the committee was looking at when they were doing those rankings. The number one consideration is alignment with ARC's funding goals and priorities, because we want to make sure that those projects that we move forward that rank high enough to be invited to put an application in to ARC directly would then be successfully funded. And then we also look at the local priorities, looking at diversity of what municipality and the diversity of types of projects. So we're not just necessarily funding one type of project, that we're looking at all the different projects that have been submitted.
Susan, I have a question.
Yes.
Even though there's rankings 1 through 10, that doesn't necessarily mean a lower ranking won't get considered depending on the process. Would that be accurate? It's traditionally, but
Traditionally, just to let you know what happens after we submit these projects, these projects will be submitted to Tri-County Council of Western Maryland, and then they will look at our rankings and then the rankings of the 2 other eligible counties for ARC funding, Allegheny and Garrett, and then they will compile a master ranking.
we blend it together.
Blend it together. Obviously, when you look at it, you want to be at a higher ranked project, but just because we submit someone at a mid to lower rank, it could be that just based upon the dollar amount or something that ARC or Tri-County Council looks at, they can make adjustments as well.
Susan, 2 questions there. So if there was a project that for some reason is skipped because it doesn't fit whatever criteria, they would go to the next.
Yes, they look at the
well.
next project.
Okay, and just for clarification, because I'm new to Tri-County Council, serving on their board, maybe Commissioner Klein can answer. Is that for us, the board members, to decide, or Tri-County Council staff? Who makes that decision?
The next project that is considered,
With this project list,
project list.
when they're combined, right? So you're
the project ranking that leaves today will be your decision, what order. We have them preliminary ranked by the committee, but that is your discretion to change. Once you submit to, we vote, there's a vote today, then I'll submit the rankings that you've agreed upon to Tri-County Council. It's their discretion how they move that around.
Yeah, and so is it staff at Tri-County Council, or is it the board members
or
of
a
Tri-County?
combination of the staff.
I believe it's the board.
The board, okay. I would like to see if there's support to move the 5th ranked project up a little bit. This is something that's plagued the small town of Hancock. It's listed as sewer rehabilitation, and I guess technically it's their first sewer system, as they use a lagoon system now. Not just economic development, but there's also some environmental concerns that go along with that. I'd like to see if we can move that up.
Any discussion on moving 5 to 4? I'm personally okay with it.
I think it's a great idea. Great suggestion.
Okay, that's 3 court, or,
I'm good, I'm just,
okay. Would you please make that change?
Okay, and I do have can I ask a question? Or are you still on? You have more? You're done?
I'm done.
I figured.
I just want to clarify, so we're just basically switching number 4 and 5.
Yes.
Okay.
Under your column there, local private funds. Does that mean those funds are already in place, or if they're approved, they have to figure out a way to how to?
Those are the funds that they have, say that the organization has indicated they have committed for that project.
So they have that money already?
They've committed.
Yes.
Okay, you need a vote on this?
Yes.
You want to vote? All right, seeing with the corrections made, is there a motion to move forward with this recommendation rankings?
I'll make a motion to move forward with the stated changes.
Is there a second?
A second.
Hearing a first and a second, is there any more discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Very good. Construction bid award, Marsh Pike Sidewalk Extension. Scott Hobbs, welcome.
Good afternoon, Scott Hobbs, Director of Engineering. I'm here to request that the board conditionally award the Marsh Pike Sidewalk Extension contract to the lowest responsible bidder, Priority Construction of Baltimore, Maryland, in the amount of $386,241.25. Conditional award is based on receiving concurrence and award from the Maryland State Highway Administration. The project was advertised in the Herald Mail, on the county's website, email marketplace. 5 bids were received and opened Friday, April 5th. The bids were below and tabulated. All the bids have been evaluated, and the low bid from Priority Construction is in order. The engineer's estimate for this work was $425,000. Project involves installation of 600 lineal feet of sidewalk and curb along Marsh Pike to improve the safety for the children in the area that walk to and from Paramount Elementary School. Project involves grading, curb ramps, pipes, stormwater management, and asphalt paving. The work will be designed to comply with the American with Disabilities Act standards. This is a 120 consecutive day contract with an anticipated notice to proceed for June 2019 with anticipated completion in September so that the majority of the work can be completed with school out of session. The bid documents included liquidated damages in the amount of $500 per calendar day for work beyond that date. Project will require daily lane closures Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 2:30. This is a budgeted capital improvement plan project with estimated expenses for the bid, inspection, and construction contingency. County secured a federal grant, Transportation Alternatives Program, Safe Routes to School, that covers these expenses. So with that, if there's any questions?
And this is being covered from a Safe Routes to School grant, is that?
Yes, so our last was Lincolnshire Elementary School a few years ago. We completed that project. This is the next project. It's a long process when it comes to all of the paperwork involved with setting these projects
We'll have
up. So we're,
little cost.
yep, all the expenses are covered as far as our construction and inspection.
And we'll be providing safety for children.
Yes.
I just have a question just for me, for the bid process. You have, you say you open those bids all at once, and is there a possibility that one of those bids might have been a whole lot lower than you went back to that low bid and asked them why it's so low, or are they just opened and they're as is, you don't go back and renegotiate with
No.
anybody?
Correct. As
So
is
that,
when you open the bid.
the first 5 bids come in just like that when you open them, correct?
No, we just put them in order from low to high, so it's
Yeah,
easier to
and-
read.
And there's nobody
It's
giving them out.
random.
If someone comes in really low, do you question them, or?
We will take a look at our estimate typically, but it's based on really past experiences, reference checks on contractors when we deal with these. Being a federal state program, low bid's important, but we also check into the references of the contractors.
I guess my concern is somebody was really, this isn't that bad, $67,000 difference rounded off to the second, but then 22,000 between the second and the none, and 34,000. So the people who won the bid were, yeah, I guess if you did a percentage, substantially lower than the people, the other people seemed pretty close except for Huntsbury.
We've experienced, through the last couple of years, the bids have ranged drastically at times. Some with the workload. When it comes to the economy and some of these projects, sidewalk work is in itself a different part of construction where there's some cost savings. There's some drainage work here, some stormwater work. So what we've seen based on our estimates, that $386,000 bid is a reasonable bid. We've checked the references and feel comfortable with that bid. But again, we've seen this over the last couple
Yeah,
of
you're
years.
sort of
a
in,
low
you
to
said
high
your
bid.
engineer's estimated to be about 4.25, right? So you're sort of in the middle, so. Yeah, just for my clarification, I'm wondering what happens if that bid would have been 300,000. Would you have went back and say, how can you be so low?
We will look into things. That being said, we will take a look at the items line by line. That's the advantage of a unit price item project. We can see where things are and then evaluate from there. There may be some cost-saving measures that the contractor has. A lot of times when it comes to excavation, maybe they have available stockpile off-site. When it comes to concrete, maybe there's some advantages there they have. So we look at all of that, but when we evaluate to make sure moving forward that we're comfortable with the bids. That being said, it's a competitive bid process with.
I just did a quick calculation. The difference in cost between the low bid and the second bid is 14%, and bid 2 and 3 is 4%. So.
Yeah, I guess I'm sort of getting back to what's the technical name for that, Wayne? A preferred.
Oh, local preference?
Yeah, I mean, if you had I know a couple of them are local, so if you had local preference, being a 14% spread, you might have they would have still probably lost the bid, but if you'd have had like 2% or 4%. But I sort of got off that because there's mixed reviews on that.
Well, just looking at for the solid waste bid that we had, the difference in cost between a local and a non-local contractor is like $1,400 on a $200,000 project. That, now obviously it went to the local bidder, but if those two bids were switched around, $1,400 on a $200,000 project, local preference would have helped our local businesses.
I understand.
Our local
Well,
economy.
no bid's just taken for granted. It is reviewed to make sure they're accurate with their estimate.
Yeah, so looking at 14% that Commissioner Kiefer had said was the difference between the first and second place bidder. So if we had local preference, that wouldn't be a factor there.
No.
So with all of that, I'd like to make a motion to approve as recommended.
All right, I have a motion to approve. I have a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, vote for approval. I'll say aye.
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 Motion passed. Thank you very much. Next, Susan Buchanan, are you back again? Welcome. Maryland Nuisance Insect Fund local participation.
Good afternoon. I'm here regarding the Maryland Nuisance Insect Fund local participation. Susan Buchanan, Director Office Grant Management. As you may recall, on December 18th, 2018, the Board of County Commissioners approved local support for the Black Fly Management Program. The approved funding was for 10% of the total program costs up to $12,000 in FY19 and 10% of total program costs up to $24,000 in FY20. This was based upon a projected total program cost in FY19 of $120,000 and FY20 of $240,000. The funding was to be provided through hotel rental tax funding due to the impact on tourism and recreation in the affected areas. During the 2019 legislative session, House Bill 1353 repealed the Black Fly Management Program and replaced it with the Maryland Nuisance Insect Fund. The newly established program will provide treatment for black flies, which are considered a nuisance insect, if the county agrees to pay for 50% of the cost. The program will be implemented in FY20. The restructuring of the program necessitates the county revisit the funding commitment made in December. Suggested modifications to consider include, but are not limited to, the following. Removal of language stating up to 10% of program costs, since it's a 50% requirement by the new structure of the program. Eliminating support in FY19, since the program will not be implemented in FY20 by the state, so there will be no funding available in FY19. And then the possibility of adding the $12,000 previously committed for FY19 to the FY20 commitment to provide a total local funding commitment for the program of $36,000 in FY20. The number of sprayings provided by the Department of Agriculture, they provide an estimate, and it's important to note they are new to this program. It was previously under the Black Fly program, implemented through the department, MDE, I believe. So they're just getting up to speed and getting this program structured. But they were able to provide an estimate based upon those funding amounts for $36,000 of local funding, which would be a $72,000 total with the state match. They could provide 4 treatments along the entire stretch of the county's portion of the river, or 5 treatments only at the Harpers Ferry location. And then for a $24,000 local commitment, maximized by the state to $48,000, they could provide 2 treatments along the stretch of the river and then 3 at Harpers Ferry location. And they wanted me to make sure that you were aware that that's based upon the 100-year average flow of the river. So depending upon a year of heavy rain, those estimates could be impacted.
Your request is for how much today?
Basically, what I'm asking to do is the way the program was structured when you initially made your vote on it has changed. So the state has to have a dollar amount so they can proceed with the procurement they need just to be able to get this set up so they can start the spraying. They did indicate they can do the spraying prior to October 1st when the bill is effective. It's just based upon how quickly they can procure it. So they need a dollar
You
amount.
want the total of 36,000 in our motion today?
Whatever you decide as far as what you want your total to be, we would need to have a commitment to provide to the state so they could move
Commissioners, your
forward.
thoughts on that?
Questions?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So we're gonna do under this new bill, we're doing no spraying on the Potomac this summer.
FY19, which would be prior to July 1st.
Yes.
Now. FY20, it will be dependent upon how quickly the state can procure. I asked if they could do it this summer. It says and my response that I received from the state was if we can get through the procurement so that it's in place, they could begin immediately.
So they may be able to do it this summer. They
Maybe.
want a commitment,
Right.
from the
So
county.
the sooner we approve the money, the sooner they'll begin the process of approving.
Yes.
And then the next question, it's saying 4 along the entire stretch or 5 treatments at Harbor Ferry. Can we tell them, and this is my opinion, that we want the 4 along the entire stretch of the river and not just 5 at Harper's Ferry? Because the thing is to make sure that it benefits all of the county, not one location.
This is a state program. I don't know the answer to the question whether we have the ability to
Authority.
direct that, but I think if we do have that ability, if you wanted to go ahead and say make that decision that would be your preference today, then that way we would be able to give them that answer.
It may be in the best interest of the county and the commissioners to see that there is some language. Perhaps they don't like the language, but it also may benefit to know that it's going directed toward where you want it to be directed, and rather than the state take the money to put it, for instance, all 5 at Harper's Ferry. The other question that I think we've been working on is contribution from Frederick County, and if we can get those funds. There was a citizen that reported in early this week or late last week that had some more information that we may be able to pursue those. So that may be a good lead into trying to pursue those funds with Frederick County.
A few comments. I met yesterday in Keedysville with some citizens about this subject, and I think the sticking point for us is that the season for black flies spans 2 budget cycles, so that makes it complicated when we can get the money and the funding. The dollar amount that was given to me was each treatment was $40,000, and it looks like according to what we have, the treatment is a lot less than $40,000. Do you know which is accurate? Not that I'm doubting your numbers at all, just it was shared with me a treatment is $40,000.
It may be because of the different agency. This is a new agency doing the program, and maybe it's just the difference in information that they're using to get their estimate.
Okay. Do you think it would be possible since, because we're looking at possibly not getting state funding for this project until next summer, would it be possible for us to pay? I know they want a 50% match, but if we paid for the first treatment ourselves, the state pays for the second treatment, all state dollars. In essence, we're paying 50%. We're paying for half the cost of those 2 treatments. But to bump up that schedule a little bit, is that possible?
One of the things I can see immediately with that idea is that it's a state program, so it's run on their timeline. So even if the county had funding to contribute, I don't think that it would be implemented prior to a July 1 date anyway. Would you agree?
Based upon the internal procedures they have to go through just to be able
So
to.
our advance payment in full wouldn't make a difference?
Because we're not doing the spraying.
Right.
We're not in charge
It's
of
their
it.
program. They just base it off of our funding level.
Okay. And then just one other comment, hopefully for next year, the idea was brought up through one of our partners in the lobbying coalition that this might be an agenda item that they would like to add for next legislative cycle. Hopefully our contribution could be less than 50% so we can get more treatments in throughout the year. So
This was a bill that was brought up at MACO and everything, and it was a hard push to even get the 50% because of Maryland's total budget. But it ended up passing. So just an FYI.
Hey, commissioners, what's your thoughts?
One other question on Commissioner Kiefer's, is it possible that we could do as the county, we could do a spraying? Or do we not have that capability?
We've not looked into that, I think, as a county, so, the way they do the spraying is a helicopter. Yeah.
It's just,
Somewhat out of my expertise as a grant manager.
Yeah, I just know, my family's down in that area in Antietam Battlefield, and it does get pretty bad, and I can see, in the future, I want to make sure that we have this in line for when the new Sino Canal headquarters is down there, and we're having tourism. Imagine going there, and then you're just getting destroyed. You never go back again. So I want to make sure it is in there, but if we don't have the capabilities, I understand.
I mean,
But
You got a plane, if you got some fluid, we'll dump it out the window or something.
There we go.
Gentlemen, you want to put a dollar amount with some words, language in there? Is that what we're deciding?
I'm good with contributing the 36,000 now, and if there's an opportunity to revisit this in the next few weeks, once we get some more finalization on the state procurement process,
Yes.
I would be good with looking at it.
and by now, do you mean FY '20?
What's that?
By now, do you mean FY '20? Fiscal year 2020? Because I think that's
Right.
the other additional item that previously 12,000 was
19.
approved for 19, and the remaining was in 20, but she needs all of that to go to 20.
I'm fine with pushing that forward into fiscal year
So it'd be
2020,
FY '20.
starting July
36,000.
1st, I suppose.
Yep,
And it would be unlikely to procure anything before then.
yes, based on the state schedule.
If all right, I'll make the motion for $36,000 for local funding for fiscal year 2020, with the preference of 4 treatments along the entire stretch of the river.
With that language in there. I have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Discussion would be, I think we need to hit our delegation with a lot of this requested information too for another venue of pushing forward this project. I have a first and a second. All in favor?
I think that we really have to stress what he just said about the whole length of the river. I think they've targeted just one little area, and that wouldn't be acceptable.
Okay, that's, okay, I have first and second with that language added. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 5-0, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Seeing nothing else on our agenda, we'll recess to Henry K. Douglas Drive.
What time is that, Wayne?
3:30.
That's 3:30, right?
4 o'clock.